I spent today I spent today working on my new album. Like a lot, like whenever I have caffeine and I get the urge to go on FL, I'm just on there for hours, whether that be chipping away at one song or hopping between multiple and polishing them up. And I've been again reminded of this idea I have that when when I started out making music, it was a lot easier to make something interesting. Because I think there's two things that go into a song, sounding good, and that's, of course, music theory. How good sounding you can make a song to the ears, how, like, pleasant and harmonic it is. And then the second is novelty, how unique are the musical ideas you're bringing, how cool can your song structure be in the specific sound design that you use. I think you need a mix of novelty, such making it interesting, and actual music, substance, chords, what key it is, key changes, choosing the right tempo, you know, shit like that, and also just then mixing it good. And for reference, when I started using FL Studio literally just a year ago now, I had no knowledge whatsoever of music or sound design or anything. I never played like an instrument as a kid or anything, and that's not to say I've figured it all out now, but I had like no knowledge. I had to figure everything out, and I think that resulted in me, making a lot more interesting and weird decisions, which resulted in a lot more interesting songs. And by no means does that mean it resulted in good songs. They're all, at most mid and typically garbage for months and months. And but they were that not and but they were actually interesting. I can still go back through those songs, and despite having to bear through the what do I say, like, just the poor execution and like obvious inexperiencedness of it, I can still find them interesting and actually sit through them all because I don't get bored of them. Like, I just had absolutely no idea what I was doing, to the extent where everything I made was like this weird experiment, and it was so drastically different from whatever the last thing I made. And it just resulted in a lot of interesting tracks. And now that, nowadays that I have not a full understanding of music, there's still a lot I need to learn, especially on the software part. But now that I have, a basic grappling on music theory and using FL Studio, I of course find it so much easier to make a listenable track. But I find I actually have to put in a lot more effort to make something that's interesting, sounds new, and like, I don't know, fun to listen to. Like, I could easily go on FL right now, put in a chord progression, make a couple melodies, put them on all these different instruments that go well together, mix it all. But is it gonna sound unique and new if I just do that the same way I did it last time, but, with some different notes? No, of course it isn't. I have to actively put in an effort nowadays to make an interesting track. So it's like as you get better at something, you would kind of trade off how much fun it is / how easy it is. I don't know. Basically, what I'm trying to say is just that, like, objectively getting better at something doesn't always make it a better experience for you, and that's the sad reality I've come to face with Tetris. Interestingly enough, I find almost no joy in playing solo Tetris anymore. I know the best finesse strategies, which is how to get any piece to a specific place in the least amount of inputs. I can cleanly stack whenever. I have like a 50-second personal best on 40 line, which I just don't care to, polish off the rust off of my gameplay enough to try and beat. Because seeing that 50-second go down to a 45-second just wouldn't give me any dopamine. Like, I just do not care. I don't get any joy out of solo Tetris, and I don't get much joy out of multiplayer, but I do think multiplayer is a lot more fun, at least online with strangers. I don't really find it fun with people I know because they're either better than me because they actively play, since, I'm still rusty, or they're far worse than me because they've just not had as much experience and hours put into the game as me. And so, in order to have fun with Tetris nowadays, since I've just become, good enough at the game for the game itself to not be a challenge, I have to play all these special modes, whether that be, if you read my blog post about Tetris Battle Gaiden, playing these weird variants with odd rules like building meter and sending attacks, or games like Tetrachroma, where Tetrachroma, it's like $7 NZ on Steam. I'm gonna get it. I haven't actually played it yet. Or games like Tetrachroma, where you have to match the colors by like playing reversey with your pieces. It's hard to explain with words, but it just has a weird gimmick and it's awesome. Or like, other old Tetrachroma is not old, but Tetris Battle Gaiden is. Just like these old weird Tetris variants is what I have to play to have fun. Or like another one is the new snowball mode on Tetrio. I have to change the game for it to be fun to me because it's just not fresh anymore. And so instead of that, I've just been playing Puyo Puyo because, well, technically I've played Puyo Puyo for a long time, but I've not played, maybe over like the past 3 years I would have played it like 10 times, and then I got into it recently as my resurgence in Tetris interest just morphed itself into a huge interest in Puyo Puyo, because it's so different to me as a Tetris player. There's no hold. No hold to me is crazy because I've never been too into classic Tetris. I've always been a modern Tetris player, incredibly reliant on things like 7-bag and the hold system. And so actually having to put down every piece that's sent to me, find a place for it on the board, and know I'm going to have to deal with it later is so novel to me. And just the entire idea of, no, you don't clear a line, you clear a group. Like, all these subtle changes, but they build up and make the game so different from Tetris, despite, being a falling block game, that I have so much more fun playing Puyo Puyo nowadays, because it's just, I'm not good at it. I find difficulty in just the base game at times, although I've gotten a bit better as I've been playing, and now I find difficulty in a lot of the CPU matches, and it's like I can compare it to my early music. I find myself making these really weird chain setups that I'll probably never think of or like judge myself for using in a year's time if I reach my Tetris level in Puyo Puyo. I'm always playing these weird strategies like I would if I was in some Tetris variant or something. And it's so much more fun to be on Puyo because I'm bad at it. And so, I guess it's just the point of this video is that getting better at something doesn't always improve your experience, and you're always just going to have to be moving on to new things. But that's okay, because it's really fun.